everyone, a little disclaimer before I get to this video. I have severe allergies right now and I'm going to be doing the voiceover, so please forgive my voice, my sniffling, if there is sniffling being picked up on the mic. So I just wanted to do this video and describe what I'm doing through the whole entire process working on this Merc hood, and I hope you guys enjoy. Give me some feedback, let me know if you like me explaining how I'm working and all that stuff, and yeah, I hope you enjoy. Alright, so I'm going to be starting out with the color red. I had it mixed up and I have hardener in it, just like I did on the trunk, and there's a bit of a glare on the nose here because I had a halogen light to the left hand side of me and I had another light on the right hand side of me, so that peaked nose kind of really does pick up the light, so there's going to be a lot of glare there. So I'm going to start out here with a teardrop. I like starting a lot of my designs off with a teardrop. It's very traditional. And then I'm going to mirror it on the other side. And as you can see, I'm bracing my hands and I have both pinkies down and I have a finger underneath my thumb that's holding my pinstriping brush. I'm a big believer on bracing your hand when you're pinstriping designs. It helps out with keeping the line nice and even. And here I'm going to be doing a secondary fill-in area that's going to be the shape of a triangle. I believe I have a similar shape on the trunk on this design, and then another triangle on the bottom, which I also did in the back. I try to incorporate some elements on the trunk lid as I pinstripe around other parts of the car that I'm working on. You will come to notice that I am extremely fussy when it comes to corners of my lines meeting, and here I'm setting up to do a long sweeping S-curve, and as you can see I have one pinky down and then I lifted my other pinky, but I'm still bracing underneath my thumb. I'm going to mirror it on the other side. And the left hand side usually takes me a little bit longer to pinstripe than the right hand side because I am trying to match it as I am going. And the reason why I start out on the right hand side over the left hand side, being a left-handed pinstriper, is that if I did the left hand side first and then try to mirror it on the right hand side, my hand would actually block my vision, so I wouldn't really be able to match it up correctly. And a lot of right hand pinstripers, they'll start on their left hand side and then mirror it on their right hand side for that reason. And there I just did an S-curve and I just put down a little dot of paint on the left hand side because that's where my landing points are going to be. And here you can see that I am going through my thought process of where my next move should be. This whole design on the hood is all freehand, so you'll see me going back and forth on thinking about my next move. And I did cut out some of the paletting in between, but usually when I'm paletting, I'm also looking at the car at the same time, and I just come up with ideas of where I want to go next. And this is me again thinking about where I want to go. I have those two open lines up there, and then I have the open lines down below. I already know what I want those long sweeping S-curves, how I want to end them. So I get stuck on the upper part, so I'm just going to go down here and do what I know I want to do with these, which is extend them and do a longer S-curve towards the end. And I'm going to have sections of these that are going to be filled in with white also. So I'm just going to take care of these, and also you'll see me stop for a little bit here, and then I'm going to get up and go get my rubber mat that I like to kneel on. Since I'm usually working on concrete floors, it's always good to carry something like that for your knees to keep them nice and healthy, because there's a lot of up and down when you're pinstriping designs on these classic cars. And here you will see me starting and stopping a line quite a few times. This is just because either I lost sight of the line when I was pinstriping it, trying to match it, but it's always nice to be able to start and stop, make sure everything is as perfect as you can get it to be. Here's another great example of my extra fussiness. The OCD comes into play here. I'm just going across, finishing this triangle that's going to be filled in with white later. I really make sure my ends are nice and crisp. And here I'm setting up for a S-curve. I'm rolling the brush. Now the brush is basically upside down here. And then I wiggle and I stop. Usually when you see the wiggle of the brush at the end of a line, that's because I'm making the end of the line the same width as the line I just pulled. Sometimes if you pull up too soon, you leave a taper on the end of the line, and instead of going back and working on that taper, I just wiggle and I pause and I wait for the paint to distribute off the tip of that brush. And you can see I did do this line in 2 sections instead of the one like it did on the right hand side, and that's because I know sometimes the way I pull certain C curves, they're stronger or weaker on my left hand side than my right hand side, so sometimes I just pull them in 2 sections. You just got to really make sure that you can meet those lines up nicely. And you can see here I'm going to be doing a shallow C curve crossing over the middle, and you can see I'm leaning back the more I do the line, especially when I start to cross over the center, and that's so I can visually see the whole picture and make sure that when I go on the left hand side I'm not too low or too high crossing over that line. I'm gonna do a tighter C curve at the end of that line, and I wiggle and I stop. Like I mentioned before, I do that quite a bit, and it's something that you don't hear a lot of pinstripers talk about when they stop a line, but I find that it helps me out, stopping a line nice and clean rather than having that taper. And I'm listening to tunes as I'm painting this. As you can see, I'm bopping my head around, and you know, I'm always listening to music, so please forgive the little dance session there. And here is another long-winded thought session here. As you can see, I'm paletting, I'm looking, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to end those 2 lines, where I'm going to go with them, trying to envision it. I go back and forth. I have 3 open lines at this time period. I have the one that I just did, these that I did a little bit earlier, and then those long sweeping S-curves. So I already know what I'm going to do with those long sweeping S-curves, so this is where I'm just going to go finish these off while I'm still pondering where I'm going to go next on those other open lines. I don't really like leaving open lines in my designs. That's a whole nother conversation, which I'll eventually do a video on. So I'm going to finish these off, and these are going to be where I fill in with white later. So after I finished those off, I finally decided where I want to go with these, so just do 2 smaller C curves here, You already hear me talk about C curves and S curves. Usually pinstriping designs are made up with basic 3 lines, but you can say more than that. Basically it's C curve, S curve, and the straight lines. Now you can flip those C curves, you can make them go left, you can make them go right. Same thing with the S curves, and people count those for their own lines, but I don't. I just call them C curves and S curves. And as you can see, when I was doing that C curve, I had to pick my pinky up so I didn't run into the wet paint, but I am still bracing my hand, which is out of frame right here. You can kind of see it there. When I'm working, I usually work always wet on wet. I'm usually at my customer's house, and you just got to get it done. You can't go back and forth 3 times to do 3 colors on a design. So you got to really keep in mind where your pinkies are going. And here I am filling in my secondary color. I'm using a mixed up gray, and I'm doing a time lapse on this just to speed it up. These are usually, they're done quicker where I'm doing the secondary color. And then after that, I'm going to come back in with the white and do all the fill work with white, and also a little bit of line work with the white. Now there's some pinstripers that will lay down their fill color first and then they pinstripe around it as they do their design. That's something that I never got used to doing. This is how I self-taught myself, was to do the fill-in after I do the outlines. So this is just how I work. Some people prefer it the other way. I tried it a few times, it just didn't work out for me. So I am still using the King 13 size 000 as I did in the trunk area. The whole entire front end's done with one of those, and then if I do any detail work, like the little red lines over the white and the little dots, I usually pick up a virus and do that. So you can see the fill in here, speed it up. It takes a while with the pinstriping brush, but I already have the white on there, and that's what I'm going to use through the whole entire white session here. So this is the little last section of white that I'm going to be filling in, and then after that I cleaned out my brush and picked up a virus and then did those little red lines that go over the white there, and then those 2 little red dots I used with the end of my virus. Sorry I didn't take a video, it's just is what it is. Can't capture everything. So that's all she wrote for the nose of the Merc, and I really hope that you liked me giving a little bit of commentary as I did this. And yeah, so that's the finished nose, and that job's all done now.